So, hello everyone. Welcome to the last session of the day. So, we have a keynote presentation on developing high performing people managers to maximize workforce effectiveness. Um, the speaker, you have seen him already in one of the panels before, Koki Lavalle. He's head of immuno-oncology program management at Bygene USA. He is a professional drug development leader with a broad range of experiences in project management and portfolio management across many therapeutic areas and in both biotech and pharmaceuticals. So very much in the topic for this conference and with the theme specialization on the biotech and pharma. So, Corky, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I will acknowledge that I have the death slot on the agenda. I'm literally all that is between you and the virtual door, and hopefully the not so virtual cocktail. But that said, I imagine that there probably are some of you who are like really excited about the title of my presentation, and you're already looking forward to maximizing your workforce's effectiveness if your workforce looks like this. But probably it's not. So I'm sorry for
Sorry,
disappointing the two of you who are excited.
sorry, Corky. Just one thing. Can you click on the hide? There's one message on the notification on your screen. Yeah, perfect. Thank
There we
you.
go.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I spoiled my entrance here. All right. Well, such is life. So anyhow, again, sorry for disappointing the two of you who are excited by the title of this presentation. But the rest of you will be probably happy to know that that is not what I'm going to talk about today. Instead, what I hope I can do is offer some useful advice from basically a career in managing and leading teams essentially has spanned 40 years, about 25 of which have been in the biopharmaceutical project management arena. So I'm going to start off by basically just asking a question. What is your job as the leader of a department or a function? And I'm not talking about just a PMO, but any department or function. And by the way, I'm going to use manager and leader interchangeably, even though I think we all would agree they mean different things. So, and I can't see the chat because of the way I've got things set up, but I'll assume that you all have something in mind when you're thinking about what your job is. I'm going to tell you what I think the job is. I think your job is to ensure that your organization has the people needed to get the work done and done well. You need to find good people. You need to equip them with skills and motivation, and you need to remove obstacles that keep them from doing their best. Sometimes those obstacles are technical or organizational, but often they are self-inflicted, and it's our job to help remove them regardless. And of course, you really want to retain them, especially if they are doing a great job, because it's a very competitive market. And any of you who are trying to hire PMs right now know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you can do all of this, everything I've just described, you're actually doing pretty darn good. But is that enough? I don't think so. Actually, I think as the scope of the work grows and as the size of your team grows, you're limited by your own availability. It's sort of like being a sole proprietor. Your productivity as a leader is limited to your time, the time you can invest in your people. So what I think you need to do is not just create good workers, but create good leaders. And that's really what I'm going to talk about. Why? Okay, a personal example for me. I started at Genentech in 2006. I was asked to build a development project management group from scratch. And as I was going about that, at one point I had 15 direct reports because I thought it was all about me, right? I had to be the one, sort of the leader. It was killing me. So I created my first leadership team from the people in my group that I felt had good potential. What qualities did I look for? Well, I'm going to keep you in suspense. I'll get to that. But that group helped me train the rest of my group. They added value on top of their own PM skills. They also freed up my time to be able to do a better job as a leader and within my organization. And they helped me communicate my vision to the rest of the team. And I'm going to touch a little bit on vision right now. I think vision is an essential quality of a leader. Managers maintain. They rely upon systems and controls. Leaders are innovators, and they rely upon people that they've inspired and aligned under a common vision. But what you really want is not just to add leaders. As your organization grows, you want to and need to multiply them. One of my favorite quotes is the difference between good leaders and great leaders is that great leaders build more leaders, and that's what you need to do. All right, so how do you attract and retain good people? Well, let me ask you another question. How many of you have followed someone to another company? Think about it. Again, I can't see your responses, but I know I have. I imagine a lot of you have. I know a lot of people who have. Why did you follow them to another company? Because they had a good 401k? Probably not. More likely you followed them because they inspired you. They believed in you, because you could trust them, because they had a vision that you believed in, that they treated you with respect. You will all have your own reasons. It may be some of these or all of these or others that are entirely different. But let me ask you another question, and you don't need to raise your hands here. Has anyone followed you to another company? So here are some of the things that will help you create an environment that will both, I think, attract and retain good people. People need to know that you believe in their potential, that they have a future in the company, and that you're building their future. They need to know that you're going to invest in their personal growth, that however they come today, they're going to be better at the other end of this, whether they stay with the company and grow with the company or they move on. You need to also set the example. A common phrase I've heard is the speed of the boss is the speed of the team. So how you act is how you're going to go, or how your team is going to go. And critical to this overall is communicating your vision. I mentioned the vision, and it's got to be compelling. It's got to be a vision that people want to follow. If you are leading, but you look behind you and you don't see anyone following, you're just out for a walk in the park. When you walk into the room, are you the thermometer or are you the thermostat? Do you go down to the temperature in the room, the excitement in the room, or does the room come up to wherever you are? I think you need to be the thermostat. And all of this is about creating that environment where people want to be around you and want to follow you. Then you need to equip your team. How do you ensure that your people are able to deliver? Give them the skills they need. You need to focus on their strengths and seek ways to help them utilize those strengths to the maximum. Don't worry about, areas for development, in quotes, when, only when it actually may hinder an individual's ability to progress. Are they fatal flaws? If they're not, focus on their strengths and work towards them and help them work towards them. Believe in them. Not only will it stimulate them, but it will also make it easier for them to succeed. People tend to live up or down to your expectations. So if you think they have great things to offer, they're more likely to try and deliver on that. If you don't think they have the ability to do it, they're going to realize your expectations. As I say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's sort of a cliche, but I think it's actually really true. They're going to listen to you after they know that you're doing this for their growth, not for your own personal gain. And then you have to model the leadership style that you want to see. It's going to help you identify your potential leaders, because your future leaders will emulate your styles. So they'll sort of raise their hand by how they act and what they do. What leaders value, their people value. So I'm racing through these slides, maybe because I'm talking too fast, but that's all right. We'll just go forward and then we have time for questions. So let's talk about the qualities of potential leaders. And this is where I promised that I would give you some of the things that I look for. I will say this, that you equip your workers, but you develop your leaders. So, and I'll talk more about that. But as promised, here's some of the things I look forward. I look for character. So, you may say, well, how can I assess their character? Well, ask yourself some questions. Are they owning their own mistakes? Do they make excuses? Do they share credit? These are all like examples of ways that you can tell, what kind of people they are. Influence, leadership is influence. You need to have people that are able to influence those that are around them. They need to have a positive attitude. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think it's been said that only 30% of the people who end up being relieved of their jobs are lost because of their skill sets. The other 70%, it's because of their attitude. Confidence empowers. Oh, I'm sorry, people skills. Don't want to skip that. People skills are important. You want to be working with people who can work with other people, who can work with people and communicate with them effectively. Keep in mind that you're not looking for every person on your team to become a leader. And most people want to follow. That's the way they are. It's easy to follow. What you want are the handful of people who have the potential to become great leaders. Confidence is important. Confidence empowers people, and people will not follow someone who doesn't have confidence in themselves. Self-discipline, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but think about it this way. Do they do the easy stuff, or do they do the inconvenient things? Followers and most people will focus on the easy stuff, but the people you want are the ones who are willing to do what's inconvenient. Communication skills, obviously, are pretty critical. And then this last one, discontent with status quo. I've heard it said that status quo is Latin for the mess we're in. What we're looking for are people who can see how we are now, but who have a vision for more and who are willing to do something about it. You want people who are willing to change the status quo. We're not looking for necessarily troublemakers, although troublemakers can make great leaders if you can harness that. But you are looking for people who are not satisfied with the way things are, but rather they want to see, try to move the organization to where things should be. So I mentioned that you equip your workforce, but you develop your leaders, and that's what I'm thinking of. And this is probably a subtle differentiation, but I think it's actually an important one. You're training. If you're equipping team, if you're training them for work, but if you're developing your leaders, you're training them for personal growth. The equipping is really focused on the task. What's the work that needs to be done? But when you're, again, developing a leader, your focus is on the person. You're changing those people or helping them change themselves to become more than what they are right now, and to find those things within them that will allow them to achieve their maximum capability as a leader. Equipping is a management task. It's about processes and systems. It's giving people guidance on how to do the work that they need to do. But developing your leaders is about leadership. It's about training them about leadership. It's about testing their leadership abilities, about giving them opportunities. Equipping, again, is skill oriented, whereas leadership is really character oriented. Do they have that capability to focus on the people around them and to develop them to be the best they can be? And before they can do that, they need to understand what it is to be a leader and have the orientation of giving. Leaders are servants. A lot of people think that leadership is about telling people what to do. That's probably closer to management. Leadership is actually holding out a vision and and empowering people to follow that vision and inspiring them to follow that vision. And leadership, developing leaders, it's hard work, frankly. It's a big commitment to your leaders and to yourself. It requires a lot more effort than training people to do the work, but of course it yields, to me, far greater results. A leader who produces other leaders multiplies his or her influence. And that is actually all I have, other than to point you in the direction of some, I think, useful resources. A couple of books that I really like, actually. John C. Maxwell, I think, is a great writer on the topic of leadership. He has a book called Developing the Leader Within You, and then another one, Developing the Leaders Around You. Dale Carnegie, again, a great area. That institute, Dale Carnegie and Associates, they have a book called The Leader in You. And then the Successful Manager's Handbook has a lot of useful information on how to move your people forward. So that actually is my presentation. Much faster than usually I deliver these things, but there you go. I guess I was excited. So I'm going to end this and see if there are any questions. And I'm looking at the stage. I was looking at backstage.
I had a look at the chat. We don't have questions, actually. We just had a comment from Eric. Nice talk.
Okay, I see Jessica has a question. How do you manage people out who are not developing into leaders? You don't necessarily have to. In fact, you need to have a workforce too. You can't all be chiefs and no Indians. You take people where they're at and you help them be successful with whatever they bring to the table. If they have a good attitude and the ability to learn to do their job, not everybody's cut out to be a leader. In fact, I would say the majority of people are not cut out to be leaders, but you need them. You need them to be on your teams. Now, I would say with PMs, I actually kind of want all my PMs to at least have some sense of being a leader, because PMs typically partner with team leaders to maximize the team leaders, or to fill in the team leaders' gaps. I don't know about you, but many of the teams that I've been on and that I have seen, the team leader, and I'm talking primarily about development teams, the team leader is usually selected for their technical excellence, not for their business savvy, not for their people skills. And so I want PMs, and I hire PMs who are able to fill in those gaps and help those people be successful. And that partnership, I think of it as a leadership team, even though the team leader clearly has the decision-making authority. That's what I'm looking for. So those people still may not be able to develop other leaders within the PM organization, but they're still bringing a lot of value to the company. Peter, that's a great question. I'm not sure I can answer that, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a maximum size. My intuition is, if the leader has sufficient leaders, teams come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, right? I mean, you could consider your company a high performing team. Whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people, or just 10 people. Some favorite interview questions for identifying leadership capability and potential in candidates. Another great question. I'll say this. I look for a track record. Have they been in leadership positions in other companies? And it doesn't necessarily even have to be in their company. I do look at, what have they done on the outside? Are they involved in professional societies or organizations? And do they take on leadership roles in that place? I like to ask the question simply, in your career, what are the things that you are proudest of or that give you the most satisfaction? I find that the response can be very telling in terms of what motivates them, what are they looking for, what gives them a sense of real accomplishment. I'll also say that the that management book, Successful Manager's Handbook, does have some excellent sections on interviewing and interview questions.
Great insights, Corky. I have one question, which I'll just take the liberty to ask you. Now we have a lot of portfolios which are becoming more and more hybrid. So you have projects being managed in classical or traditional ways, and then a part of the portfolio being managed in agile methodologies. So you have like all these hybrid portfolios coming up. What do you think about the leadership styles that should be taken by the leaders who are supposed to manage these portfolios, which are completely mixed, and where you have various different methodologies being used at the same time?
I think, by the way, Peter, great, great comment. The there are a lot of different leadership styles that are going to work. I think in a variety of things, but a lot depends upon the organization. I don't know if you've ever been to Regeneron. Leadership style there is very different than the leadership style that you might run into at Beijing, where I'm at right now, or that you would see at Genentech or Roche. So it starts at the top. There's a culture that you have to fit into, but in the end, it's still people. And regardless of the methodology or the technical aspects of how you're managing that portfolio, you still need to align people. You need to have a clear vision for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You need to get those people to subscribe to that vision. Some people like a very direct, feedback, even potentially a little bit between the eyes. That's not going to work for other people. You need to know your players. You need to have somewhat of a flexible leadership style. But in the end, if people don't trust you, if people don't believe that you know what you're trying to do, if you cannot articulate to them a clear set of goals and expectations, you're never really going to get the maximum out of your team. And that's why I started this off by saying you can't program these people. If they were all robots, it'd be really easy. It just here's how it goes. I give you this input, you're going to give me this output, and it works great. That's never going to happen. But there are some common orientations and philosophies, I think, around leadership that will allow you to motivate that team and guide that team towards success. A lot of interesting comments coming
Yeah,
along here, Eric. Yep.
definitely. Yeah, lots of interesting comments out there. Yes.
Yeah, people do not like to lose. But again, you don't need to have, if you try to make a leader out of somebody who is not leadership material, you might be able to succeed over a very long term, but I don't think we actually have that much time and energy. I'd rather go with the people who clearly raise their hand and demonstrate to me in all the ways that I described here earlier that they are leadership material, and I'll work with them. They need to want to be a leader and have the capability.
Absolutely. So, any last thoughts? So, since we have no more questions, so if you wish to wrap up with some last thoughts on leadership.
Yeah. So again, hopefully I didn't disappoint people by not talking about maximizing workforce, but I did talk about people managers. I really do believe that the difference between a good manager and a great manager is that great managers create more, I'm sorry, leaders create more great leaders. If you build a leadership team around you, and they don't all have to look like you, but they all have to um, be willing to follow you. And I will say again, at Genentech, that first leadership team that I put into place were three individuals. They couldn't be more different from one another or from me. But as a team, I think we were very, very successful in building that group. In 3 years, I went from one person when I had arrived to over 30 people when I left to go to Onyx. And to this day, we still stay in touch with each other. It was a very high performing team and a very interdependent and mutually supportive team. It was great experience. And I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Corky, and wonderful, wonderful ideas. I really like this idea that don't add leaders, multiply them. Actually, yes, so true. I also like your idea about leaders as innovators who rely on people and not on processes. And the speed of the boss is the speed of the team. And yeah, can't agree more on that. So thanks for taking us a bit deeper. What a I can't. Expect a better topic to end the day with all the reflections and all the ideas that we had. So thank you very much, Corky, and I will. I think I will uh, just go backstage, and we'll be back in a minute to come up with the final comments to wind up the day.
Great. Thank you. It was a pleasure to speak with you.